There's 6 summer jobs that you need to be doing now to ensure that you have a good rest of the season. Let's get started. First type of job that you need to be doing is watering. Water is really, really important this time of year because on the basis that it's really, really dry, okay? You need to be watering regularly and deeply. You need to make sure that you're absolutely drenching the soil. If you don't water this time of year, the soil actually becomes hydrophobic, which means the water will sit on top or just run off, okay? We've all seen soil like that. Now, there is an easy fix for soil like that. You can water, wait a little while, water again, wait a little while, water again. Or what I sometimes do, I don't like doing this too much because obviously I don't want too much soap in my soil, but if you put like a teaspoon of soap, like dishwasher soap, like dish soap, into your watering can and mix it about and you water your soil with that, you'll actually be able to rehydrate your soil much more effectively. I've got a cockerel. We don't actually allow cockerels over here, so he's gonna have to like find somewhere else to go. But he's only really young at the moment, so it is what it is. He's just started crowing. He crowed a little bit at home, but he's actually doing quite well, so he's probably gonna go to the farm. I actually know, I'm not even joking though, I actually know a lady, she's amazing, and she rescues cockerels and drakes and things like that. So yeah. So if you hear that, that's what that noise is. Another thing you need to do that make sure you're doing this year is not watering the leaves of plants. You need to make sure that you're watering underneath the plants, because when I'm talking about plants, I'm talking about your cucurbits, so squashes, cucumbers, your winter squashes, because it produces something called powdery mildew. If you do get powdery mildew, spraying milk on it really helps. Milk is alkaline and it reacts with the powdery mildew, killing it off. So if you do have powdery mildew like that, it does reduce your overall yield, so just spray it with milk, and it really, really does help. With tomatoes, you don't want to spray, you don't want to... What's your matter? Well, you can't see. Is that better? Is that better? Couldn't see. I can't see. So with tomatoes, you don't want to actually get the water on the foliage on the basis that... You tired? Shh. Or hungry? Also, watering in the morning will so help with slug control. So if you water at night time, that's when slugs are most active. So you don't actually want to make the perfect environment for them. Nice, wet, moist environment is what they enjoy. It's more likely for them to come out and eat your plants. If you're having problems with slugs, make sure that you are watering in the morning. The best water you can water your plants with is rainwater. It's actually started to spit now. So if you have water butts and you water with them, you'll notice massive growth of your plants, because rainwater actually has nitrogen in it, which is fixed from the atmosphere. So that's what you actually want. Our city water doesn't have that. Our city water is chlorinated and doesn't have the beneficial properties of rainwater. So you do want to collect that as much as humanly possible. Oh, that's very exciting. I didn't actually know I had more netting. Yay! I need some more netting. I was going to buy some today, so it saves me some pennies. The next thing we're going to talk about is harvesting. You want to harvest as regularly as possible. That will help you with your pest pressure. If you remove fruit like tomatoes before they're ripe, like just as they're blushing, they will taste as good as if you leave them on the vine. I promise you. Okay. The reason why tomatoes in the supermarket don't taste as good isn't because they've been picked a little bit early. It's because they're picked green and then they're sprayed so that they ripen. Less ethylene. If you actually go ahead and pick them a little bit too just blushing, nothing will touch them before that point. But if you let them ripen on the vine, there's a good chance that it looks like it's really raining there, but it's not raining here. It's the weirdest thing. So if you go ahead and, what was I saying? If you go ahead and pull your crop a little bit early, you won't have anything impact on like the flavour of the crop, but you can have a massive impact on the pests. I try to do that as much as possible. With things like berries, just pick at them as much as possible, especially raspberries, strawberries. You'll notice if you leave strawberries about, you'll get more and more pest damage. But for example, raspberries, if you go ahead and pick them like on every day, you won't get them weird little maggoty things in them. They'll be so much better. So if you make sure that you do that every single day, you do reduce the pest pressure within your garden setting, especially if you're in an allotment, because allotments are terrible for pests, I tell you. As we're talking about tomatoes, you do want to pick tomatoes before it rains. You do want to pick tomatoes before you water. The sugars in the tomatoes are going to be so much more concentrated in a tomato that is not been watered. It doesn't have a lot of water in it. Also, tomatoes can split if you dump a load of water on them. You want to have really consistent watering. Lots of people I've seen recently saying that they've got blight and it's blossom end rot. Best way to solve that, regularly water. We try to water every other day super deeply, especially in the summer when it's not really raining. Like a little bit of spitting doesn't count as raining. Harvesting is a fantastic way to get kids into the garden. My daughter loves harvesting. Weeding, not really that interested in helping. Harvesting, she absolutely loves. She will come down and she'll help me harvest pretty much anything, which is really, really good. So if you want the kids to be in the garden, make sure you help them harvesting. I actually heard this, I think they're called proverbs. There was this little story I heard, I think it was on TikTok. I'm really into TikTok. I've only had TikTok for like a couple of weeks, but I just absolutely love that platform. Anyway, I was like doing the doom scroll as you do, and I went ahead and found this video. It was about a man, and the man spent his entire life in this garden, and the garden was beautiful. It was weed free. It was perfect in every way. When he got older and he decided that it was time for him to retire, he said to his sons, he said, I'm leaving this garden for you. I hope you're going to look after it as much as I do. And the son said, why would I want your garden? And he was like, well, I've put all my time and love into it. He goes, yeah, you put all your time and love into that, but you never spent any time with us. So if you want your kids to carry on, or do you want your kids to be influenced by something, you have to involve them. If you want your kids to eat healthy food, we'll get them to cook with you. If you want your kids to eat healthy food, get them to garden with you. If you want your kids to love gardening, get them to garden with you. If you want your kids to be inspired by something, involve them in the thing that you find inspiring. It's so easy to say, you know what, I don't want you messing up my stuff, and I'm terrible at this, and I'm as guilty as anyone else. I it doesn't come naturally to me to allow someone who's younger to do stuff. It's easier for me to harvest. It's easier for me to plant something out. It's easier for me to do it the easy way, but it isn't in the long run. And I always try to think in my parenting, I'm always thinking, okay, what's easier in like 10 years time? What's easier in like 20 years time? I don't want to do the quick fix now. So that's why you see quite a bit of Jasmine helping me out down the allotment, and Jasmine being down here, Jasmine playing, Jasmine doing a bit of harvesting, because I'm trying as much as possible to get her involved. The more involved she's going to be, the better she's going to be in the future. And honestly, from day one when I brought her down here, and she's down here more in the summer because obviously I'm not taking her out of school to be like, right, Jasmine, I actually need to get them cabbages in. I don't care, you've got a maths exam, you know, priorities and that. But in the summer and that, I normally bring her down. She's not actually here today because she wouldn't get out of bed. We were out yesterday for her birthday, and she just was like, I don't want to wake up. So I said to her dad, give us a call when she's up and I'll take her over here. But if they feel included, then you're so much more likely to go ahead and get a child that's like passionate about the same things that you are. Even if they're not, at least they have those memories. Some of my best memories is gardening with my nan. Make sure that you're out there making a ton of memories, and also it's a free activity. Like, why does life have to be this expensive? So I always say, like, I take Jasmine down to the allotment every other day in the summer because it is so expensive going out, and this is it's a free activity where, okay, sometimes I buy her an ice cream on the way home, payment, right, but it's not that bad, like, honestly. And you know, the really extensive part is that you get to spend time with your kids, and they grow up so quickly, and I'm so aware of that. So I generally want them to be down here, and I watch videos like Justin Rhodes. He's an amazing example of this, way better than I am. But he always has his kids, and sometimes his kids are like proper moaning, and they do. Jazzy sometimes she proper moans, she kicks her heels, doesn't want to do this, doesn't want to do that. But you kind of like make them do it, because it's good for them. It's good for them to be outside. It's good for them to put their electronics down. It's good for them to do all of these things. So we kind of like, oh, you know, you have to do these things. And I hear a lot of people giving up gardening, giving up their allotments, giving up their hobby because their kids won't do it. But if you make it something they actually enjoy, and sometimes you do mean that you do have to force them into it, it's like anything. When Jasmine loves her birds, and she loves coming down here and playing with the birds. But sometimes I do say to her, look, Jazz, you've got responsibilities. You do have to come down. You do have to look after the birds. You do have to check they've got water. You do have to check they've got food, you know. And it's like with anything, kids are like, oof, all right then. So I think it's important. Number 3. Sewing. There's so much you can sew right now. I was actually just looking at my little sewing stuff. Sounds like I'm going to make like a dress or something, but I was looking at my sewing stuff. Was it last night or the night before? I cannot remember. And basically, any time that something sprouts and my lettuce is up now, I'll go ahead and make another sewing of that. Lots of my lettuce is now bolting, so I've pulled that. I'm going to put the new seedlings in, and it's really important I have more seedlings, because I really, really want to have that succession. I'm trying to get to the point where I have something to harvest like every month. So for me personally, it's like super important that I have something to harvest like every single month. This time of year, you do have to be super, super careful and super, super quick, because we're almost there, guys. We're almost at the end of the season. It's really sad. I always say this, but when you're gardening, you kind of like get to the point where you're kind of like living in the next season. So it's summer, it's the, you know, the best time of year, and in my head I'm like autumn, 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 winter, autumn, autumn, winter, winter. I've already sown things that I'm going to be harvesting next spring, which is madness, isn't it? You know, I've already got things in the ground that are growing that are going to be next spring's problem. I just think that's madness. So what you can sow this time of year is spinach. You can sow this late in August, and you will get baby leaves in October, which are the best time, in my humble opinion. Then it will go into dormancy, and you'll be able to have a harvest next spring. So once again, thinking of spring. Lettuce you can be sown now. You put it in the greenhouse, it will overwinter nicely. You get a few leaves before, and you'll be able to get a big harvest in the spring. You do it under I can never say this, under conches. I'm pretty sure it's pronounced conches. So you can actually sow wild rocket about now, but you have to get it in like immediately, and you'll be able to have some baby leaves, which are very, very nice. And then it will go into dormancy, and it will be able to be harvested again in March. You will have to do them under row covers though. Salad rocket has a better chance of surviving the winter, but is likely to bolt when it comes to April. So like a combo of those would be a good idea. Corn salad is another really good way of getting some greens into the ground this August. Just sow them directly, and then you can go ahead and cover them, but you have to make sure that you're watering them super regularly because they have such shallow root system. Turnips is another thing that you could be sowing right now. You can sow them directly and then go ahead and thin them out. You have to cover them up with probably this insect netting that I use. This is super cheap, so I get this from a website. I'll probably link it below. And the website, basically, I cannot remember what it's called, but it's like Scaffolding Direct or something like that. And it's actually a scaffolding company. So I buy this, and it's like the most amount that I can find that's quite cheap, and it's really effective. It's insect netting and things like that is really expensive, but this works perfectly fine. Another thing you can do is spray it with BT, which I find really, really effective, but you want to be really kind of careful where you spray it, because it affects all soft-bodied caterpillar, and we don't want to wipe out all the caterpillars in the world. We just want to stop the ones that are eating our crops. Does that make sense? You have to spray it like twice a season, so I feel comfortable growing it, but do your own research. Chicory can be sowed from February to September, you want to try and start them out in little trays and then transfer them. But you do need to cover them from pests. Like everything I have in the allotment, there's so many pests here, it's ridiculous. At home I'm like, oh, I'll just go ahead and spray it with BT and then it's fine. Here I'm like, I'll spray it with BT, I've got to spray it with grazers, etc. I just rather cover it because cabbage is another thing that you can sow. You can actually grow spring cabbages. Your winter cabbage and stuff you can actually go ahead and plant out, which is one of my jobs today. So if you go ahead and do that, it's so beneficial because then you have a staggered harvest over the season. And I really like spring cabbage because I find it sweeter, especially the conical ones. I think I'm doing April this year and early Durham. I really enjoy those, recommend them highly. Really delicious cabbages, and I find that every couple of years I undersow them and oversow them, so I'm like constantly either undersowing, oversowing. This year, between me and you, I've definitely oversowed them, but I'm hoping that's going to be quite nice. I think it's really important. There's some birds fighting. I think it's really important to have like a concession sowing, so you have something to sow over the winter as well, because you've got to come down to the allotment and do a bit of work anyway, so at least that you'd leave with a cabbage. But once again, you do need to go ahead and cover them like these lovely row covers that I just told you about, because everything likes brassicas. Them lovely birds that you can hear behind me, they love brassicas. The butterflies, the caterpillars, the rabbits, everything loves them. So like I said, at home I'd go ahead and spray them with BT. Here, row covers, because everything, it's like the rats, the rabbits, the this, the that, the other, is just a bit of a pain in the bum. You've also got things like chard. Chard is something that you can sow this time of year, which is like very similar to beet leaves. Rainbow chard is something that I really recommend. I really enjoy rainbow chard. I quite like it as baby leaves in salads, so if you like that, or you can let them grow out and use them for stir fries and things like that. And kohlrabi is something you just don't find in the shops, do you? So you just don't have them. Most oriental cabbage leaves you can actually go ahead and sow. I believe Napa cabbage it's the last time that you can actually sow that. I have quite a bit of Napa cabbage, so I'm not going to be sowing that again. Well, I say that, I probably will do, maybe for baby Napa cabbages. I just love them. They're just the nicest, like juicy, wonderful leaves. But you've got pak choy and you've got kohlrabi. Kohlrabi is something you just don't find in the shops, and it's really nice. It tastes like the stalk of a broccoli, which I know sounds really weird, but it's so good. I like it as like a crudité, which sounds well posh. It's like a raw vegetable you dip in stuff. I really enjoy it, and whenever we have people around and we whip out a kohlrabi, people say it's really, really tasty, which it is. You actually eat the swollen bulb of it. I say that they're about this big, and they're really good. You can actually get things, varieties like, I think it's delicate, which you're able to actually grow it quite larger before it becomes woody. Number 4. The fourth thing I'm going to be doing this summer to ensure that I get a decent harvest is spraying. I'm going to be spraying grazers on, I was going to say on everything, but that's not true. I spray it on some things. So I spray it on things that I'm going to go ahead and eat, but not have. For example, I wouldn't spray it on lettuce and then eat lettuce, because I just don't know, it just makes me feel uncomfortable. However, if I'm spraying it on like the bottom of a bean plant to stop the rabbits from eating it, or the foliage of a bean plant, I'm going to eat the bean plant, and I have to spray it every 3 weeks. I wouldn't spray it on a cabbage and then eat the cabbage, because I think that's going to be awful. But it does say that you shouldn't spray it within a week of harvest, so there's that in the back of my mind. So I just don't spray it on things that I'm actually going to eat, just on the actual plant, which to me it makes sense, especially if I'm not going to have a harvest at all. For example, I've completely lost a tree this year. The rabbits have completely destroyed an apple tree that I'm growing over there, and it's completely dead. It was like, it got up and went, and I was like, oh, it's going, and then it just went. So it is now officially it's gone. So, but if I sprayed that with graze at the bottom, I wouldn't have had that issue. So that's something I kind of regret. So anything that I see and I'm like, okay, that's not working, what's happening there, what's going on there. For example, beans, peas, I'm just about to plant out some peas and spray them, because if not, I'm not going to be getting a single harvest of them. So in my mind, it makes more sense for me to do that than lose the entire harvest. Does that make sense? That's what I'm going to do. Right or wrong, that's what I've decided to do. If you're not comfortable with it, look into it. This is not sponsored or anything, but I do think it's a great product. It works for me. But yeah, like I said, always do your own harvest. Always do your own harvest. Always do your own research, because something that I'm comfortable with, maybe you're thinking, oh my goodness, that woman's crazy, which is true, but do your own research. Number 5, planting out. There's so much I need to plant out. I will show you my seedling table. I've got Napa cabbage, which is like chewing it a bit to come out. I've got more broccoli. I've got some sprouting broccoli. I've got Napa cabbages like everywhere. I've got the cabbages. I've got, you name it, I've got them ready to come out. I've seen my kohlrabi started to sprout, etc. So it's one of those things that I've got to get more and more out. I'm actually getting to the point where I'm like, I have no space, what do I do? I've got a couple of beds that I need to turn around, looking at my carrot bed thinking, you're not going to germinate, so let's just get something in instead. So this is all like playing on my tiny little mind, and I just need to get things into the ground now, I think. Especially this time of year, the days are getting shorter and shorter, literally. So I do want to go ahead and make sure I've got something to go in the ground, because I really want to have something to harvest all year round. I think the key to being a little bit self-sufficient is making sure that the winter and the autumn and the spring are producing for you. So I want to make sure that I'm doing my best, personally, to make sure I'm doing that. I do have my perennials that are going to produce still in the spring, like rhubarbs. I've got a lot of my lovely marshmallow, which I'm actually going to harvest for the first time this year. I've got black licorice and stuff that I can pick over the winter time, but I want things that I'm actually dedicatedly my annuals putting into the ground. Another thing is weeding. I spend my life weeding, hoeing, weeding, etc. This at the moment is my favourite weeding tool. It is awesome. I actually don't know what the brand is, but I'll link it down below. It's not sponsored or anything, but I got it from Amazon, and this is epic because you can shorten it. So for example, if I'm in the greenhouse, I can just take it apart like that, and I can use it in a smaller space, which is just epic. And what I do is I just run it over like so. It literally makes short work of weeding. Maybe I'll do a video on all the tools I've got, because I don't think you should spend a lot of money on gardening, but I do think there's a couple of things that have made my life so much easier. And that is one of them. It's like a stirrup hoe. And I was always like, what's the point of getting one? But they're absolutely epic. I actually got a comment the other day because I put up a little video of me using it. They're like, oh my goodness, is that electric? I'm like, no, you're able to hoe front and back. It's epic. Bonus job that you can be doing in summer is deadheading. So deadheading will promote more flowers on any of your flowering plants. So with dahlias, just go ahead and pull them off. You can use pruners to do this, but I don't. I just pull upwards and it comes off. All of these heads, because they're immature, can go ahead and be composted. But to be honest, if I got a load of dahlias volunteering in my compost, I'd be well happy. So just anything that's spent, and you can tell it's spent because it looks like this, and you can see like some old leaves on the outside. If they're starting to turn, I take them off as well, because it's going to be a couple of days until I come down here. I did pick a load of these for my daughter's teacher. I think it's an absolute epic gift, is harvesting some of your homegrown flowers. The more you pick, the more you get, so it is an important job. I like these sort of plants that I don't have to bend too much to do. And if you deadhead, they'll produce pretty much all summer until the frost comes and kills them. They give you, if you look after them, they'll make sure they look after you. Thanks so much for watching. If you like content like this, please go ahead and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.